So nutrition is kind of one of those things I'm really passionate about. I feel like we can do a lot of changes in our body by eating well. So one of the things that I've done every year for the last 3 years is a cleanse and detox. Typically you do these in the spring, that's when your body's most receptive to it, because in nature, in spring is when plants start blooming and fruit and vegetables start kind of coming into season. So spring is typically the time the body's most receptive to a cleanse, so every spring I do one. And I was telling Nat about it, and she said, why don't you do it at the gym? And I was like, okay. So this is a cleanse that I do, my family does, we do it every year. I just wanted to share it with my really queer gay family, because that's how we do things, right? So, a couple things I want us to talk a little bit, have any of you guys done a cleanse or detox before? No? I'm new to this, you have. One of the things is why cleanse or detox? That's a big question, like why do I need to do this? Well, one of the things that happens in our kind of daily life is we're around all these toxins and pollutants that kind of get stored into our body. From the food we eat, junk food, processed foods, fast food, fried food, as well as like the chemicals that we put on our body. Deodorant, skincare, there's just different toxins in these kind of things that we put in our body. What happens is our body ends up storing those. So one of the big places that gets stored is the liver. The liver is also what processes alcohol when you drink. If you take any medications, it all just kind of gets stored in the liver. So one of the huge reasons to detox and cleanse, and the focus of this cleanse, is to cleanse the liver. Because when you cleanse your liver, it tends to make you just feel healthier, have more energy. So some of the things that can kind of indicate that you need to do a cleanse or a cleanse can be beneficial are things like autoimmune diseases. That's kind of a sign of really chronic inflammation. And on that note, this is the MGPA News magazine, it's a pilot magazine, and I write for it. And so I made copies of it, but this is an article I wrote last month about inflammation. That's going to be a lot of what we're talking about today. So I have copies for you if you all are interested in reading it. It talks about what inflammation is, specifically chronic inflammation. But one of the things we're working on through this cleanse is to eliminate the amount of inflammation in our body. I'm sure you guys have all heard about inflammation, chronic inflammation. Well, what does that really mean, right? So chronic inflammation is basically your body is responding to some sort of stimulus in a bad way all the time. So that could be due to food allergies. You're eating something that your body doesn't want you to eat, and you may not even realize it. It could be something like dairy or corn or soy. And you're eating it all the time, not even realizing that it's causing inflammation in your body because your body's kind of become somewhat desensitized to giving you symptoms of it. But what we do in these cleanses is we eliminate the potential allergens that a lot of people have. So in this process, you're going to eliminate bread, you're going to eliminate alcohol, coffee, sugar, soy, eggs, basically anything that can potentially cause allergens. And at the end of the cleanse, you slowly reintroduce them back to figure out what gives you some of the signs of kind of allergies to food are kind of a throat that's after you eat, diarrhea, headaches, just feeling really foggy the next day. Those are all signs of food allergens. But if you're eating this stuff all the time, you're not even realizing it because it's just kind of in your body. So what we're going to be doing with this cleanse is we're going to be cleaning the liver out, and then as well as we're going to be taking out foods that cause inflammation in the body. So it's kind of a double thing. Cleaning the liver out, getting rid of food that basically makes us feel bad, and then at the end we're reintroducing food to see if that's what's making us feel better. For me, when I did my first cleanse, I realized I was allergic to dairy and eggs, and I'm Mexican, so that's like devastating. But it was one of those things that after I took that out, one thing I struggled really bad with are like seasonal allergies, like hay fever and all that every spring. And all of a sudden I took those things out of my diet and my allergy symptoms went down like 60%. And what I was realizing, when your body has this high level of inflammation, it's kind of this threshold to start having symptoms really easy. So some things people, for example, my mom, she struggled really bad with like arthritis. She's a little bit on the older side. And so she ends up getting really bad joint musculoskeletal pain anytime the seasons change. And she did this cleanse and she's like, oh my gosh, like my achiness every day has gone down. My hubby, who's here recording, thank you, he struggles really, he's a pilot, and he suffers really bad from like chronic fatigue. And he realized that once he did this, the chronic fatigue got a lot less. And for him, it was his addiction to sugar. So one of the things that is in our diet that's like chronic is the sugar and everything, like even in a granola bar that you're like, oh, this is healthy, right? Because it doesn't taste good. Or a Cliff Bar, or any of those things, there's a ton of sugar in this. And so a couple of things I'd like to kind of talk about is how to do a cleanse and detox safely. And so that's kind of why I like to kind of manage how this stuff is done, so the how-to part. One of the things that happens a lot is there's juice cleanses or water cleanses or things like that that people do, and they're kind of bit of a fad right now. And they have a place, but one of the issues with those is you're not getting all the supplementation that you need. So muscle wasting starts happening, and chronic fatigue starts happening because there's just not enough to kind of keep you sustained. You're basically starving yourself out and have a whole bunch of macronutrients, which are great, but your body's not getting what it needs. So if you want to do a cleanse and continue working out, forget doing a juice cleanse or a water cleanse. And since this is kind of an active gym, an active community, we need to do a cleanse that we can continue to work out. That's the whole point, right? We're trying to be healthy, having healthy homos. That's the whole point of this place. So what I like about this product and this cleanse is that it's kind of a three-part thing. One is you're changing the food and diet you're eating. You're going to be eating basically nothing that comes out of like processed foods, so no sugar, no caffeine. It's going to be basically, you're going to be cooking and making food that's very simple. Like it's going to be a whole food diet, which is the way we're meant to eat. So we're going to be doing that, but then there's also supplements. So there's this shake that you drink most of the mornings, and sometimes 2 to 3 times a day, that's filled with kind of nutrients and things that you need to eat as well as protein. And it also has complex carbohydrates in it. So it's going to make sure that you're not famished and you're not starving and you're not hangry during this, because I get really hangry. So this is one thing that I really like about this, is that Nat sees me hangry and my husband definitely sees me hangry. So I like that it gives a supplement kind of approach. One of the things you can do with that, and I tend to do when I'm cleansing, is I make it into a smoothie. So I basically put ice in there and bananas and all the different fruits that you can eat during this cleanse, and I blend it into a smoothie. And for me, it's like a really good breakfast or like a midday snack or what have you. And then there's also some supplementation, some pills that you take that are key to the detoxifying process, and they also have really high antioxidants. So people are like, what the heck is an antioxidant, right? Does anyone know what antioxidants are? Or why they're important? No? Sorry, most people don't. So one of the things that goes on our body are free radicals, and those are basically just particles that are kind of going crazy in the body, especially when you're detoxing, you're cleaning all this stuff out of your liver. So you kind of have some toxicity going on through your body during a cleanse. Antioxidants just reduce the level of that toxicity and they eliminate those free radicals. So basically it decreases the amount of inflammation in your body. So a lot of these, like fish oil and things like that, they're anti-inflammatories. They also deal with these free radicals and things like that. So that's why I like this cleanse, because it basically allows you to work out and how that works. So what I also wanted to talk about was things to know before you start a cleanse. So, components of the detox. Actually, how about that? Things to know. So, a couple other things. With this detox, it comes with a 10-day guide of what to do. That's really pretty self-explanatory. But it basically talks about what we just went through, but it also has what's called a general food guide. And these are the foods that you're allowed to eat, and it basically breaks it up. It's a 3-step cleanse, so there's step 1, which are days 1 through 4. I'll go over this in a little bit. Days 2 are days 5, step 2 is days 5 through 7, and step 3 are days 8 and 9. And it basically has a guide of foods you can eat and can't eat during those different processes. So one of the important things is kind of looking at what the food options are, and then deciding what you like and don't like, and kind of just shopping accordingly, getting the right type of food. The other thing is, if you typically consume large amounts of sugar and caffeine, if you just cut it cold turkey, you're going to really struggle for the next couple days. So this cleanse is meant to start a week from yesterday, so next Saturday. And this week coming up, I ask you to just slowly start backing off the amount of coffee and sugar you have every day, so that when you're doing the cleanse, you're not having caffeine and sugar withdrawals, because those are pretty intense. So that's one of the reasons I want to do this a week beforehand, is if you do decide to do it, to start weaning off of it. Now, if you're like, look, Angel, there is absolutely no way I'm taking my coffee away, and some people are that way, you're still going to get benefit from this. The ideal way is to take coffee out completely. But if you can't do that, you can't do that, and that's okay. So, especially people that work early in the morning. But what you will find is once you get the sugar and coffee out of your diet, and you start doing the cleanse, you're going to start finding you have more energy, and you're going to be feeling a lot better, because you're not going to be having so much toxicity going on in your body. Does that make sense? Cool. So the next thing is, so one of the common kind of misconceptions of when you're doing a cleanse is, am I going to be hungry all the time? In this, you can eat as much of the food that is in this guide that you want. So you can just eat all day, and I find when I do these cleanses, I kind of joke that I feel like I'm a hamster, because I'm foraging all day long. Because now you're eating whole processed, like non-processed food, you're eating natural whole food, your body digests it a lot quicker. So one of the things that you should find with this cleanse, and this is the bare minimum, is you should have at least one bowel movement a day. I find on these cleanses people can have 3 or 4 a day because your body's just detoxifying and you're eating a lot healthier food, so your body's processing it a lot. I know no one likes to talk about food, but we all do it. All right, I like it. You find when you have a dog or a kid, you talk about food all the time. Like with my hubby, I'm like, all right, St. Bernard, I'm like, can you cook today? Oh yeah, we're solid. Okay, great. And you're like all excited about it. TMI. I'm glad this is recorded. Another thing that's super important is during this process, you need to drink a ton of water. When I say a ton of water, it's 64 ounces minimum. That's 8 cups of water a day. One thing most people don't do is drink enough water. Exactly. Yeah. You need to drink at least that because, again, this whole thing is about clearing out toxicity from your body. So you basically, the only way we get rid of it is to pee and poop it out and sweat it out. Those are the ways our body eliminates things. That's the whole reason we do those things, is it's getting waste out of our body. So I want you to pee a lot, I want you to poop a lot, I want you to sweat a lot through this. Cool. So next, the question everyone wants to know is, all right, cool, that's great, thanks for the knowledge, and how the hell does the cleanse work? So I'm going to kind of go through the way the cleanse works. So it's a 10-day cleanse, days 1 through 4, and you're going to get, if you decide to do it, you're going to get a packet with all this information, and I'm also going to probably do a class either next Friday or Saturday, depending on when people are available, where people can pick up their, because I have to order the supplements, where people will pick up the supplements and we talk a little bit about what to expect the next few days. So if you want to take notes, you're welcome to, but it'll all be in this packet. But days 1 through 4 is what I call the initial cleaning phase, and that would be starting next Saturday. So it's basically Saturday the 25th to the 28th. And the reason I'm having everyone start on a Saturday is sometimes the first couple of days of the cleanse are a little challenging, and I didn't want most people to be at work struggling with like cleanse stuff. Because it kind of allows you to get in the groove and figure out what you like to eat, what you don't like to eat. This is one of those things when you are working, you need to take food with you to work rather than going out to eat. So you kind of have to prep and prepare a little bit. So I like starting on a Saturday because it allows you to kind of think about over the weekend how you're going to prepare for your work week. But at this point, this is where you begin to eliminate the foods that potentially cause allergies. So you're going to be eliminating at this point the dairy, the soy, the corn, the wheat. Yeah, those are all the main things you're going to start. So all the things that Vin loves to eat. And that's also when you're slowly going to start the supplements. So the supplements, you don't just start bam, taking a heavy dose, just slowly kind of titrate up. So basically this book will tell you day 1 is what we're ready, set, go. And it's going to tell you examples of what you can eat for breakfast, which could be oatmeal or quinoa flakes with almond coconut milk. Lunch could be hummus and rice cakes. Dinner could be mixed veggie stir fry using olive or coconut oil. And snacks for the day, you can have nuts, fruits, rice cake, almond butter. That sounds delicious, doesn't it? But it basically goes through day 1. So the first day, you're not taking any supplements. And then as you go to day 2, that's when you do start taking this shake. So basically the whole point is like you're slowly eliminating the things that are not good for you, and you're slowly integrating to the detox stuff. And that basically goes on for 4 days. And by day 4, that's when we really get into the detoxification place, the metabolic detoxification. And these are the interesting days. So at this point, you're halfway through the cleanse. And what's interesting about this is when you're like taking the supplements in their kind of highest doses. And this is when you start really feeling the effects of the cleanse. One of the things that's interesting is when you have a lot of toxicity in your liver and you start doing this cleanse, you're going to find that you're going to be a lot less irritable than you normally are. So if you're quick to anger in general, that's a sign of liver toxicity. It's really interesting. This is a Chinese medicine concept. But one of the things is I am a hot blood Latino. And you'll find that days 5 through 7, you're going to be like, no, I'm not really as angry as I used to get.
I don't look like that person today.
Right? I'm not really as edgy as I normally am. And once you get to the challenge with days 5 through 7 is this is also where the diet gets a bit more restricted because it's like you've already eliminated everything out. And this is pretty much the point where at the beginning you still can eat meat and fish. Days 5 through 7 you're eliminating all meat, and it's all basically a vegetarian diet for a couple days.
Where is the protein going to come from?
That's where the shake comes in.
Okay.
So that's what's balancing out the loss of that. So that's why I like that this has a shake. This is a protein shake. So, I know you're a worker out, right? I get it. But it's only 10 days. Okay? So, and then you kind of get to those 5 to 7 days that are like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And then you get to days 8 and 9. It's only 3 days. Only 3 days of kind of hardness. Days 8 and 9, that's when you slowly start reintroducing those allergens back. So one day you're going to introduce dairy back in. day you're going to introduce eggs back in. And so the official, per the book, the cleanse ends on day 10. But what I'm actually going to be doing is I'm going to add a couple more days. So one day I want you to add eggs and dairy. One day I want you to add soy. One day I want you to add corn. One day I want you to add gluten. And then I want you to notice if you feel foggy in the head, if you have a phlegmy throat, if you have an upset stomach, if you feel irritable, if you feel tired. Those are signs of sensitivity to allergens, and those are kind of the things where you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be eating this all the time. So that's kind of the point. So at the end, that's day 10. So pretty much this cleanse is really ending. I say it's marketed as a 10-day cleanse, but it's really 15 days. But by the last 5 days, that's when you're slowly introducing foods back in. That make sense? Cool. And that's pretty much the whole process. This is kind of where I was going to open it to questions, if you have them. So I know there's a lot, Vince just like, shut up. So, yeah. Yeah. So one of the things is eliminating all toxins. So for the 10 days, it's eliminating alcohol, it's eliminating refined sugars, it's eliminating basically any of that stuff. So I mean, it's a little tough, obviously, but one of the things is alcohol metabolizes into sugar. And so the whole process of this is eliminating sugar from your diet for 10 days. And so the alcohol thing, so yeah, elimination of alcohol as well.
You know my next question.
Go for it.
What about weed? Do you smoke?
You know, one of the things is in here.
Keep it real, man.
Yeah, keep it real. Dr. Angel's response to that is that is probably not the best move. But again, like I'm going to answer similar to the caffeine question. If that's something you need to do to get through this, you gotta do to get through it.
But my liver's gonna be happy I might not, need it.
Yeah, you might want to consider maybe an edible type solution that fits more in line with what's for the protocols of this.
Alright, I'm walking my apartment, so I need a plant around.
Yeah, and the coconut oil, no flour, no sugar. Anything else?
Is this gonna make me skinny?
So let me talk a little bit about the side effects of the cleanse, right? So one of the whole point of this cleanse is not weight loss. That is not the point of this. One of the side effects of this is people usually lose anywhere between 5 to 15 pounds during the process. So every time I do this, I skinny up really quick. My mother did this cleanse last year before she had her hip replaced, and she continued with the majority of the diet choices, and she lost 60 pounds. So when you start eating healthy food, your body processes it a lot quicker, and it doesn't kind of end up getting in your middle section like I have. So yeah, you will lose it.
Wait, you said no caffeine or no coffee?
No caffeine. Yeah. So caffeine, so one of the other things, this is the kind of the two things we're doing. One is we're reducing the amount of acidity in our body by eating more basic, bland diet, which is a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. More vegetables than fruits, really, because fruits do have quite a bit of sugar in them. But one of the really big important things here is you're, one, getting the amount of acidity down in your body, two, you're getting the amount of inflammation down in your body. So one of the side effects is losing weight. Another one is having more energy. Another one is just realizing that you're not nearly as achy and painful as you are. You're going to find that you have more quicker recovery from when you're doing things. Yeah.
So if you're like reducing inflammation, that means it's like water weight that you're losing, right?
No. So
I mean, if you're losing weight, what is it exactly that? What is it that your body has less of?
Well, I find a lot of people that do this tend to have a lot of extra fat as well. And so now you're just naturally going through this detoxification process. It starts burning the fat as well.
Okay.
Because also people start eating a lot less calories than they normally do.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone eats, fast food all the time, and all of a sudden they're doing this for 10 days, they're not eating fast food, and they're eating whole food source items, the amount of kind of calories in poor diet choices is substantially decreased.
Can you talk about the pills?
Yeah, the pills. So the pills are called Advocare. They're a daily support for detoxification. And what these are, as I mentioned earlier, is they are based on, let's see, they worded here. They're antioxidant detoxification. So they are kind of key into the liver detoxification. And the amount you take varies. So in the beginning, you're not taking any pills. And then it starts on, let's see here. So day 2, when you start taking the capsules, you take 1 capsule 2 times a day. And then by the end, on day 9, you're taking 2 capsules 2 times a day. So you kind of build up the amount. The highest amount that you take of the capsules are 2 capsules 3 times a day. Those are through days 5 through 7. So So there's 3 phases of this cleanse. Days 1 through 4 is the initial cleaning. Days 5 through 7 is the actual detoxification. And days, we're going to call it days 8 through 15 is the reintroduction of food. Back in.
Are there any workout limitations?
Yeah, so one of the things is you can continue to work out, but if you are working out and you start feeling lightheaded or you don't feel like you can work out as hard as you can, just tone it back a little bit. But you definitely can work out. Most people, like when I've done this, I continue to play tennis. I did it once when I was training for a marathon. So you kind of keep it up, but you are also kind of altering the way you normally eat and consume. So you just kind of got to be in touch with your body and see kind of what your body can handle.
Talk about sleep.
Sleep, yeah. So with this is another thing that I find a lot of people find, is while they're doing the cleanse, they find they sleep a lot better. And the reason is they're not eating a lot of foods that are stimulants for them. Sugar is a huge stimulant. Caffeine is a huge stimulant. So all of a sudden you reduce the amount of stimulants in your body, people find that they sleep a lot better.
Should I assume that artificial sweeteners are also off the list?
The only one that's okay is stevia.
Okay.
So you can do stevia fine, but when it starts getting to things like Splenda, any of those things, no. Yeah, so stevia is, some people don't like it. You guys all okay with stevia?
It's okay.
It's okay. Whatever. Yeah. But here's the really interesting thing. Every time I do this detox, it reminds me of this. Food that we eat, that manufactured food, is so overly sensitized with flavor. There's so much in there that's so sweet. All of a sudden you take that food out, the first few days it seems bland, but when you go back to eating the way you were before, the first time you eat like something sweet, like you try to eat a donut after this, you're gonna be like, oh, because it's so overwhelming. Like our diet here is made so flavor-centric that it's overwhelming. So when you take that out of your diet and go back to kind of the way you used to eat, you'll find that you're gonna use a lot less of the kind of sweeteners and stuff that you do. Like both my hubby and I.
I can totally vouch for that. I mean, I did when we did it, it was a 21-day cleanse, your first one.
Yeah.
And this was a couple years ago. I mean, I'm a pilot, caffeine, drink coffee,
Yeah.
eating out all the time because I had very limited options, you know. So I had vacation. I had 3 weeks off, so I was like, I'm going to do it during the vacation. Home, I can control my diet a little bit more. And like the first 2 to 3 days, I thought was hell. Like, because you're eating rice cakes, you're eating beans, you're eating. And you're not adding sugars, you're not adding salts, you're not adding the stuff that your body's used to and adapts to. So it tastes like you're eating cardboard. And you just think like, I can't do this for 10 days or whatever. But surprisingly, starting I think by about maybe day 3, your body really just starts saying, just adapting, because you forget about all the high sugars and high salts and all the other stuff that's in your food. And day 4 and 5, all of a sudden those lentils like start tasting good. And you're like, wow, this stuff is actually really good. And then 7, 8, 9, 10, it becomes normal, habit pattern, your body is acclimated. And then like when you said, when you start eating like you used to again, it just kind of, you're like,
So that was kind of what happened to my mom. She realized how much better she felt because she was, you know, some of the things that happens when your body is not healthy is like things like anxiety and depression. They're just there, and they're almost impossible to get rid of. And all of a sudden, you start eliminating these foods in your body that are making your body happy, and it's like, oh my gosh, I feel better, I feel happier, I feel healthier. So,
if you're taking any of the medication, does that impact?
no, if you're taking medication by your medical doctor, continue taking it. So there's no interactions with medications with these products.
Is there any recommendation, like if you're in a period, to do it on or off?
That's just a natural process that your
This is
body
what
does.
we're
Yeah, so unfortunately, that's not an excuse. Yeah.
Can you go talk about allergy and seasonal allergies again?
Yeah.
Like, that's just supposed to help.
So here's one of the things. So when your body has high levels of inflammation, any little type of thing that you do is going to easily trigger some sort of symptom. So if you're already running with high inflammation in your body, and seasonal allergies is something you suffer from, people will find, for example, nights they go out partying or go be a little crazy, that next couple days is a really good chance of getting allergies. Maybe it's something you never thought about before, but I've noticed, like, for myself, if I go out and party and have a lot of fun, I usually get an allergy a couple days later because my body's pretty toxic at that point, and it takes very little for my body to kind of trigger into allergies. But if your body is healthy and where it needs to be, your body can fight off the histamine before it actually turns into this full-blown allergy symptoms. Also, if you're eating food that's already causing histamine to be released in your body, so let's say you're allergic to eggs, we'll use that as an example. So you eat eggs and your body releases histamine. Histamine is basically your body's way of protecting you from an invader. Well, if you're eating eggs and it's causing a histamine release naturally, and then all of a sudden there's seasonal allergies, and and that's causing more histamine to be released, you're much more prone to kind of go over that threshold of all of a sudden having a full-blown allergy, sneezing, hives, whatever you end up getting. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but once your allergy symptoms hit, it doesn't matter if you take a Claritin or an Allegra, your allergies are there for the day until you sleep, and then usually the next day you might be better. But once that histamine's in your body, there's really not much you can do to get it away. Like your body just kind of has to process it out. So the whole point is getting your body to not get to that histamine threshold where you're exhibiting symptoms. Yeah, of course.
I, right now, I'm following the paleo diet, modified, I'll have a glass of wine or two.
Right.
During the time. But I cook my own food, I try to, eliminate the sugar and stuff, and I did, stop the Starbucks run.
It's hard, it's so hard. Yeah.
But I did feel better. It's been about 2 months now. And so I do try to stay away from carbs. And so when you mentioned the quinoa and the rice cakes, I got nervous. And is that something that we have to follow too?
No, not at all. That was more like the recommendation.
Okay.
So I'm kind of not super getting deep into details, so I was going to do that on the Friday before, be like, okay, now here's really the nitty-gritty of this cleanse. I'm more just trying to kind of give an overview of why detox, but there's recommendations and there's foods you can and can't eat. If you don't want to eat rice cakes, you don't need to eat rice cakes. If you don't want to do quinoa, you don't need to do quinoa. But then there's other people that eat that stuff, and the idea of removing carbohydrates from the body, a little person dies inside of them thinking about it. So that's why I have that in there. One other thing I kind of like about this cleanse, and there's some people will really resonate with this. Some people will be like, that's the dumbest thing ever. But there's a little packet that's a little program diary. And I like this. So one of the things the first question is why I chose to start the program. This is just for you. Write down why you chose to start it. Today I feel inspired to. I just love little things like this. Today I'm struggling with. Today I'm feeling. I finally decided to try. So one of the really interesting things for cleanses is going to the farmer's market and going shopping for your produce. Because you're going to go there and be like, what the hell is that thing? We went to the farmer's market and we bought acorn squash for the first time. I had no idea what the hell acorn squash was. And guess what? I actually liked it. And so I started trying a lot of things I wouldn't normally try, and I started going to the farmer's market and just seeing what was in season, and then just buying them. Being like, okay, this is what's in season, this is what's in season. So anyway, I finally decided to try it, but that was a pretty good one. Today I learned about, today I noticed my energy level to be, and you can decide to do this each day if you want to, it's kind of your choice. I am proud of myself for, and lastly, the top 10 goals to support my long-term health goals. I think these are important questions everyone should ask themselves. I just like that this is added in there. I'm like,